Nigeria is the only country I have seen using two currencies at the same time. We should stop it in this budget. People should stop using dollar in the street of Nigeria. If you go to Abu Dhabi, you go to UAE, you see government officials, private sector people, traders, even grandmothers, like my grandmother in the village. You say, give me dollar. Why must people be transacting dollar and naira? We should abolish the use of dollar in the street of Nigeria. Dollar should be totally abolished. The dirham, the official money of UAE, is still at 3.2%. I went there first in '89. And if it's 3.2, we should let people to deal with official dealers of dollar. Because all this dollarization of our economy is not helping us. It's not even the import of fuel. It's not import of fuel that these people is talking. Let us go back and put official dealers of dollar, that people should stop dealing on dollars. I know Mr. President is looking at me and granted. People should totally stop using dollar in the street of Nigeria. We will transact and transfer, not cash. You cannot put, you see landlords are saying, pay me in dollar. People are saying, pay me in dollar. And we must stop this as a country if we are serious. If we are not serious, our dollar will continue going down. It's not the import, fuel import we are importing. It is the money people are using, demanding in dollars, that are causing our economic problem. We must look at it. Mr. Asadi Musa, your committee should go back to look back on how we can make these things happen. Mr. President of the Republic must sign executive bill stopping usage of dollars in the street of Nigeria. Because I'm concerned. If you people are not concerned as my colleagues, I am concerned that dollars is traded every day in the street of Abuja. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished Deputy Senate President.
Ibrahim for representing Ondo South. Let me thank the committees for excellent job. And in a few minutes, just 1 minute, talk to the paper. Accounting is historical. Accounting is historical. Data can only be futuristic. So the projection made here are valid projections because they cannot be subjected to audit. Mr. Senate President, let me say clearly, and let me recall the point I made when this government came into being, that the cash ratio to GDP, which is very fundamental, was 1%. Cash ratio to gross domestic product, that is, GDP is the volume of the economy. When Tinubu took over, was 1%. 1%. How can any MD take over a company with 1% cash ratio to GDP? We already know from that very document that we have a lot of problems because there will be no cash to run the economy with 1% GDP to cash ratio. But today, we've seen all of these movements around the economy. One important thing that I think this Sunday will make history is to ensure that food security is very, very important. Now, like we suggested at the World Bank, let's have voucher for food, particularly for the first 30 million Nigerians that are impoverished, that are critically in the poverty net. If we collapse all the account of palliatives in the central bank, and we print voucher for food and give to 30 million Nigerians 100,000 naira per month, now you reduce money supply. The inflation is caused by the gravity of money supply in the market. And the more you have money supply, you have inflation problem, you have forex problem, foreign exchange problem. All of this problem begins to come in because your money supply is high. Let me say clearly, the growth projection here is very accurate and it commensurates with international standard, particularly the global growth ratio, at the medium term rate. But the key thing is that we must ensure at this Senate that government is more advised critically to look into food security. Food security, again, is dangerous because it's one of the weapons for war. Because you can't control food insecurity. And the complaint about government policies will reduce when hunger is no longer there. So I would suggest that as much as the document talks to the economic prosperity of next year, it is very key that we look at food for voucher so that 30 million Nigeria can be taken away from the tax net. We are not printing new money. All we are saying is that collapse palliative accounts. In fact, the two senators here are the best to distribute voucher for food in their various senatorial districts. If those vouchers were printed, how can you imagine giving 10 billion naira to a state governor for palliative? He is going to use the money to do road or do anything, but if you give him 10 billion voucher for food, no one can take more than 100,000 naira per voucher. There is no way the governor can steal the money or do anything funny with the money. And the district senator here are the best to even circulate, distribute voucher for food. Lastly, on the data issue, you will recall, Mr. President, that I even brought a bill before this very distinguished Senate about Federal Data Bank. This data is now reoccurring every day. Every arm of government, whether executive or legislative, need data to work. We must appreciate the current government and the effort being made to generate this data. Because we need data. There's no data bank in Nigeria. Even if you want to know how many people are actually in poverty now, you can only project. You don't really have the actual data. And we need to create this data. And I do think that when the bill comes to the next reading, my colleagues will be happy to support that. We need data for everything that we do. If we don't have data, it is very difficult to plan. So I will say, with all respect, that if we can take away, if we can do voucher for food, I can ask senators to distribute vouchers in their various senatorial districts, and we have data to back it up, then Nigeria will be smiling. Nigeria will be great. Nigeria will be a wonderful country. And let me say this finally, that I must commend Senator Sani Musa and his team for a brilliant job done because, like I said, account is historical. Account is not futuristic. It is only data can talk to the future. Account only talk to the past. We can only audit the money we spent last year or 2 years ago. We cannot audit the money that we will spend next year. So, Mr. Senate President, like I said, I'll conclude my submission by saying that this document is valid. This document is incredibly very, very competent to talk to the future because you and me know that accounting is about yesterday. It cannot be about future. We cannot audit what we will spend next year. We cannot audit what we are going to spend next year budget, but we can audit what we spent yesterday. So accounting is historical, data is futuristic. Based on that, this is a very valid document, well prepared, intelligently formulated, and I think we should adopt it, urgently and ensure that we only talk to it through food security by putting voucher and collapsing the palliative accounts at the central bank to issue vouchers to 10 to 30 million Nigeria that are vulnerable so that we can have our peace. Again, I also think that the rich are not well taxed. The rich are not well taxed. Yes, there is need for us to increase revenue. If you want to increase revenue, because MBA is about revenue minus cost. So if your revenue is greater than your cost, you are profitable. If your revenue is less than your cost, you are at loss. But when the rich are buying planes, buying Rolls Royces, buying cars, buying houses, and the taxes are not there, I think we must even have a policy that traces the bank account number of the rich and ensure that they contribute more so that all of us will be a jolly good fellow with the poor and move our national economy forward. Once again, thank you, Mr. President, and my very, very good distinguished colleagues, and I thank you very much for the time given.
Let me first of all commend the chairman of the Joint Committee and members of the Joint Committee for a job well done. I'm really delighted by the work they've done. I'm also very delighted that the non-oil revenue that has accrued to the government is really substantial, thereby making up for the shortfall in oil revenue. In fact, this is what we've been saying year in, year out, that more concentration should be on the diversification of our economy. Let us not rely on oil revenue alone. This nation is endowed with several avenues of getting in revenue to the government, solid minerals, and other areas, agriculture and so on and so forth. So what is happening now in terms of our revenue accrual is something that is really in tandem with our zeal to boost our economy. Also, the projections that is clearly stated here is something that we need to be happy about. But as said by a speaker before me, we should do everything within our power to make sure that these sound and encouraging projections are pursued and get implemented. Like the GDP growth rate is expected to be at 4.4% in 2025 and 5.5% by 2026, and which is going to be driven by investments in infrastructure and agriculture. This is a welcome, and telecommunications. This is a welcome scenario. But as I said earlier, and emphasized by a speaker before me, by Senator Abdullahi Yahya, we should do everything possible to make sure that these projections are not just something that is just written. But I'm really optimistic by the posture of the government. By the posture of the government, I'm sure this projection will be realized because the government is very, very serious and up and doing to make sure the economy is reshaped for the better. So I'm very, very much optimistic. And even the fact that these projections are being made, it shows that the zeal is there, the political will is there to bring about a sound economic development occasioned by growth in our GDP and so on and so forth. That said, I also want to point out the fact that the oil production, it is expected that in 2025 is going to be 2.12 million barrels per day, even though there's a mix-up. When you in the summary, it is stated as 2.06 million barrels per day. I think it's a mix-up. But whatever is the case, I think that is a very good projection. I mean, it's an optimism, and it shows that the government is determined to really bring about security in the Niger Delta. It's, working very hard to make sure that those who are stealing our crude do no longer have that free chance to do whatever they want to do, the latitude to do what they want to do with reckless abandon. So it shows that the government is up and doing in making sure that security is brought to bear in the creeks of the Niger Delta, is brought to bear in making sure that those who steal our oil with reckless abandon do no longer have the free day to do so. So I think it's a wonderful projection, and the necessary committees, the appropriate committees, should increase the tempo of their oversight by putting those responsible on their toes. I know the government executive is doing very well by working with the security agencies and proper oversight over them, but the National Assembly committees, Committee on Army, on Petroleum, on Navy, or whatever, every committee that has oversight jurisdiction in making sure that such things will not happen should be on their toes so that these ugly incidents of crude debt and what have you should stop. Otherwise, we'll not be able to actualize this projection. As well, okay, I think overall, all the projections are okay. The total expenditure, which has been increased, against what we had last year, is also encouraging, even though Naira has been devalued, and so we had expected that we have an increase in terms of our expenditure to take care of various developmental projects that are ongoing. You know, the government is determined to change the landscape of our infrastructure so that we have what it takes to develop our economy. Yes, for 7.9 trillion, it's okay. It's okay. It's not too it's not too ambitious. Not too ambitious, but moderate. So we should all work together. We will not say the executive should work together to actualize our revenue projection. It's something that rests on our shoulders as, you know, a government. We also have to up our game in making sure that we do the necessary oversight. Committee on Finance, Committee on all the committees, pursue those revenue earning agencies and make sure there's no leakage that occurs at all. Otherwise, we'll not be able to achieve what we want to achieve. Chairman Banking, you also have a duty to play in this regard. All of us should rally together to make sure that we work together as a government to actualize, you know, what is put here, the projections that are encapsulated in this report. Thank you, Mr. President.
My name is Senator Abdul Ningi, and I represent Bauchi Center of Bauchi State. Mr. President, let me thank all those who spoke in commending the Committee of Finance and to some extent the Committee on National Planning. As a member of the Finance Committee, I think we have taken enough time to come up with the MTF resolution. And this futuristic resolution is a product of scientific analysis. It's not just something that came up without looking at the data. But what I found out most alarming, most disturbing, Mr. President, is that if you look at over 92 reporting revenue agencies, which you took them one by one, you could clearly see almost a total absence of oversight to some of these agencies. And these agencies,
distinguished Senator Sani Musa, Chairman of Finance, please listen to the submission. He said
you could
if
clearly see
over 92
reporting agencies that clearly spelled out.
Revenue agencies, that you could almost
92.
see total absence of oversight function. That is our committee on External Committee on Finance is not oversighting them. That's what they just reported now.
The fact of the matter, even those agencies that seems to be in the front burner, like Federal Revenue, Customs, NNPC, it is really very difficult for members of the National Assembly to have accurate, verifiable revenue data from them. And that is because committees have no particular time in oversighting their committees. It is a one-year activity. But unfortunately, because of the way we are set up, we lack the mechanism to actually call these agencies to action. And while you call them to action to verify what they have submitted, you could clearly see they are underreporting the figures. They are not giving us the correct information, verifiable information. And at the end of the day, sir, I believe, even the bigger revenue-generating agencies, I believe strongly they are not reporting this into the National Assembly. It is not just about Finance Committee. I'm sure it has to do with almost all the committees of the National Assembly in particular. So what is disturbing is we must come up, Mr. President, to create a kind of mechanism, of a way out of making sure that where revenue-generating agencies refuse to report accurate information, verifiable information, then something has to give in. There must be a way of sanctioning some of them. Usually, when you see this 92, quite a number of them have been invited by the Public Accounts Committee. Not once, not 2 times, not 3 times, sometimes even some of them even 10 times. And they hardly show up. And nothing happens. So I think it is important we put that. Secondly, of importance, I was part of the team that went to Port Harcourt to verify the veracity of otherwise as to whether the NNPC have started production. And I can gladly report, sir, it is commendable. No matter what you can say, you have to give kudos to the president, this particular president, for making these things happen in the last 27 years. We had...
Order. Listen to what Senator Ningi said, that we must commend this particular president for making the refinery in Port Harcourt to work. And that this has not happened in the last 27 years.
27 years.
27 years. Please go on.
27 years.
Please go on.
And that is the truth. And Mr. President, what is disturbing? We found 2 refineries. One was commissioned in 1964. The other one in 1978. What is alarming that this projection is taking place on the refinery that was commissioned in 1964. That is the first one. When you go there, you know from the bottom of your heart that something is amiss in this country. You could see clearly there was an internal sabotage and external influence. And we made the contractor. And he told us, sir, that it is only in Nigeria that he has seen this anomaly happen. So far, he has dealt with the one that is the refinery that was commissioned in 1964. And he's on the one that was commissioned in 1978. And he talked about the mindset of Nigerians, the mindset of people, that as long as we allow people to have their interests over and above that of the country, we will never go far. And we raised issues of sustainability in the course of our assignment last week, and we were assured. We saw the petroleum coming, we saw petroleum being loaded, and I am sure it was all in the national this thing. Now, what we must do, I'm sure it will be led by you, Mr. President, is to make sure that NNPC should have no excuse whatsoever in coming back to say they needed something or the other, because we have seen production taking place. If they do that, that means we'll go back to the question of internal sabotage. Yes, going forward, the future is bright. We are having Port Harcourt running. And they said they had done 78% on Wari and Kaduna. So if by March or June next year, we are being able to put our refineries in action, plus Dangote, then we need to see the exchange rate coming down. Because when you look at what NNPC requires and the refineries, they grab much of this foreign exchange in the country. And when we have these 4 refineries working simultaneously, then Nigerians need to see a brighter future. The Nigerians will feel it. They will see it. Right now, whatever you do in this country, there's a question mark whether it will continue. And whereby this thing is coming, why there's a production, we need to see the price of petroleum coming down. We should not continue to keep on business as usual. Production is going on, yet the prices are not coming down. Dangote is on flow. Port Harcourt is on flow. by today, we need to see these petroleum prices coming down, if we are honest with ourselves. And where we don't see it coming down, then it is the work of the National Assembly to ask questions, raise questions, so that we get the answers straight. But where you see some of these things happening, and we keep quiet, out there, the people are just part of this conspiracy to making sure that the general citizens of this country suffer. So I think this is something that is modest. The report is clearly done with a serious hard work put on it. We had several days on this MTEM, and we had asked professionals to come and give us their point of view. And I'm sure this is a package that by next year this time, if these futuristic items are not met, then there must be questions. There must be questions. And where there are no changeable, verifiable answers, then there must be sanctions. Mr. President, sanction is very important. The National Assembly must know that the reason why democracy prevails. The National Assembly must know that the reason why there must be democratic dividends. Show me your nation. Show me your National Assembly, and I will show you the kind of nation you are. Sir, we have what it takes to make sure that this country works, and I believe you can lead the way. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I was just going to